Welcome to Growing a B2B SaaS. On this show, you'll get actionable and usable advice. You'll hear about all aspects of growing a business to a business software company. Customer success, sales, funding, bootstrapping, exits, scaling, everything you need to know about growing a startup, and you'll get it from someone who's going through the same journey. Now your host, Joran Hoffman.
Welcome back to the Grow Your B2B SaaS podcast, where we discuss all topics on how to grow your B2B SaaS, no matter in which stage you're in. The path to success in the SaaS world isn't just about having a stellar product or team, it's about ensuring that product resonates with the right market. This alignment, often termed as product market fit, is going to be a pivotal milestone for any SaaS company. That's what we're going to talk about today, how to achieve product market fit. My guest today is Andy Karuza. Andy is the marketing lead at Nacho. He's a startup investor, advisor, and serial entrepreneur. Next to this, he also contributed to 100 plus business and marketing publications. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Andy.
Hey, Joran, thanks for having me on today.
I always like to ask this question at the beginning. It's a really typical Dutch blunt question. Why should people listen to you today, Andy?
I've been through a lot of experiences. I've failed in some ways, so you don't have to. So you can take my advice on some of the wins and successes I've had. So I've been in the agency world. Back in the day, I used to have a marketing agencies. I got the great experience to work with a lot of startups from the ground up. I also got to work with a lot of really large organizations as a marketing consultant coming in with new innovative strategies. So Google, Microsoft, BMC Software, Amazon, a lot of big brands there. From that, it gave me a lot of perspective into how large scaled companies are really successful and the processes that they use to really grow their business and ensure their success. And then from the startup side, working with a lot of entrepreneurs from the ground up, just helping them achieve product market fit and get that early traction for their company too. Then I realized as a marketer, a lot of times instead of trying to sell other people's products, I realized that a lot of times people built something, but they didn't really have product market fit, and they were just going out there trying to sell whatever they had. That got me to more of the product side, where my belief is that marketing really starts with the product. It starts with the experience that you're building around the product and the problem that you're solving for the customer. So it's really important to understand what you're building from a marketing angle, because if you know your customer and the problem that you're trying to solve, it makes it a lot easier to build a product that really helps serve that customer. Then it just really comes down to how you communicate it. Really, over the last 10 years, I've done a lot of products, a lot of software companies that I've founded myself. Some have won, some have lost. And today, I took this job with Nacho because to me, I believe it as the Amazon of SaaS, if you will. So I big vision here. And for me, it was a really entrepreneurial role where I could come in and lead the marketing and work with a lot of great founders around the world with my experience to help them find success as well and just be a part of their journey. So for me, it's like being a part of hundreds or thousands of startups. So it's pretty exciting.
Nice. Yeah. And you can walk the walk or talk the talk, how you say it, because you've already been in that position yourself as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And those experiences really help give you that gut instinct, know when to avoid things. And now that knowledge, that firsthand knowledge is really critical for being in this space and finding success with any SaaS product.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and as you say in Dutch, you looked in a lot of kitchens from SaaS company, as in because you worked at so many different companies and advice as well. You already explained it a little bit, product market fit. I do start with the real basic questions at the beginning. How would you define product market fit for somebody who's unfamiliar with the concept?
I think product market fit is really a point to where a product or a business can really stand on its own. And you're not trying to force it through sale by sale. Although you can build companies brick by brick, I believe real product market fit is when you get those word of mouth referrals and you've created such a great product experience. You're solving an important problem for customers where you're either 10xing the efficiency of solving that problem over other alternatives, or it's 10 times more affordable. In either case, when you have product market fit, when your customers are really excited about your product, they're highly engaged with your product. They use it on a regular basis, whatever your KPIs are around that. But most importantly, you have a high net promoter score, meaning they recommend your product actively to other people within your ICP. And that's when things really scale quite nicely and efficiently as a business model.
Yeah, and that's what we love at Reddit, is people recommending other people's software. But
We know all about it.
exactly. But when we state the product market fit, like PMF, you can already say it, like what it is, what happens when you have it. But why is it so crucial? Like everybody talks about it, product market fit. We need to reach product market fit. Why is it so crucial for startups to get to that point?
It's like getting in your car to drive somewhere and you don't have any gas in it. You gotta have everything. Just check your lights, check your tires, make sure that you have gas in your car so you can, when you move, you could really start moving. So why product market fit is so crucial is that your company's really not going to scale very easily, if at all, if you don't really have product market fit. Because trying to force something on your customers or try to oversell something, it's a really tough dynamic, right? If people want to buy, they don't want to be sold. So if you have product market fit, it means promoting your product and actually getting it out there and generating revenue and building a business around it becomes so much easier. And so a lot of people, the biggest problem I see is they want to rush something out and start selling it. But if you go back to the basics and you really solve the product market fit and you ensure that you have the right MVP and it's as good as you could possibly be, it makes everything you do after that so much more efficient. Every ad dollar you spend is going to have a much higher conversion rate and a return on ad spend. Every email that you send to somebody pitching your product is going to have a much higher conversion rate, leading to more customers and more partnerships. So everything falls in line quite nicely once you have that product market fit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think staying with the car example you gave, like you're going to start with a broken car or a car without any gas. Yeah. I think once you reach it, it's almost like driving down the hill. Like you will need to make some turns and you probably make some mistakes, but things are going to go a lot faster as well.
Yep, certainly. Yeah, and you got the momentum and gas to get there. So wherever you need to go.
Exactly, and that's a lot. The last reference I will make, but you need to put in the right gas, right? As in. Yeah. Like with any SaaS company, you need to get in the right clients, as in ICP, ideal customer profile. Like how do you, especially at the beginning, like how do you determine the right target audience or market segment to focus on initially? Because I think that's also a big problem where people misalign a product with the market they're going after for.
Yeah, and that's a big problem that I see too. And a lot of times I see founders and product marketers that think they're solving a problem, but they're looking at it through their lens, from their perception. But I believe that it really goes back to the customer. So know your customer really well, really understand the problem and why it's such a big problem for them. And then you can really determine how you can really effectively go about helping these people solve that problem. And when you understand the customer and the problem that they have, it makes it a lot easier to identify these people and really specify it down to the exact person that's the best fit for you initially. And a big problem I see with a lot of people, especially when it's what their go-to-market, is that they try to be all things to all people. And that's really not a good strategy, especially initially. So if you look at Amazon, it started as a bookstore, but obviously you could expand from there. And if you could sell books online, you could sell other things online too. So it's really important that you establish a beachhead with the exact customer that really cares about the problem you're solving. Then you can worry about how do you build new channels and revenue streams after that, and maybe tackle a new ICP, if you will. But that's where I'd start. Just go back to the customer, understand the problem really effectively, and then you can start to build everything else around that.
Yeah, and I think that this ties really well in my next question, as in you mentioned a couple already. Like I'm going to ask, what are the most common mistakes or misconceptions companies have while trying to achieve product market fit? I think you already mentioned looking at it from SaaS perspective, not having a clear focus on the beginning, and not understanding your ICP. Any other things, mistakes, misconceptions companies have?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the egocentric view that we have, not only just as product marketers, everybody in life really. It's really important that we put ourselves in other people's shoes. And if we can understand other people's problems, we could better identify how to help them. And that's what really entrepreneurship is about. So just to reiterate the point that we have to stop thinking about things in an egocentric way. We're here to help other people at the end of the day. So that's one of the common mistakes there. I also see a failure to pivot a lot of times. I also see sometimes when people pivot too early as well. So you should really know if you're like getting close to product market fit. And sometimes you got to stay true to the course and you got to know that you're almost there, and you have to be able to really identify that. But alternatively, you have to know when to pivot to. And a lot of people have this sunk cost fallacy where they've gone so far in one direction, especially when it comes to building technology, and they feel like they've invested so much into something that it makes it, psychologically really hard for a founder to pivot, maybe in a direction that's going to be better for his companies. You can't be afraid to pivot if it's necessary for your company. The other problem I see too is mistaking product market fit, revenue with product market fit. Sometimes having some revenue is great, but it doesn't necessarily define that you have a scalable business model. So don't be falsely convinced with having some revenue coming in and thinking that you have a business model and that you have true product market fit. So product market fit, going back to that point, is something where you have a high net promoter score, you're getting customer referrals from other people, and the business model is built to scale. So don't get distracted with short-term revenue and lose sight of the vision.
Yeah. And I think the first point you mentioned about failure to pivot and pivot too early, I think that's really contradictional, right? What kind of advice would you give? You already mentioned if you're so well invested in your company, it's hard to see it yourself. Mm-hmm. What kind of advice would you give for companies to see when is the right time to actually pivot?
If you keep coming up against a lot of friction is like the keyword I'd probably like to say. And friction is something you can see in your data. It could be something where you have a very low conversion rate. And so if you follow your data, you could see that visually, qualitatively too. Just hearing the same feedback from customers, that's very underrated actually. So if you hear even if it's not negative feedback and people are specifically telling you what's wrong with your product or your business, if they ask like the same question over and over and over again, and those questions come up consistently with customers, there's something there. And so that warrants diving deeper into it to figure out, is there a misalignment with your product and your product market fit, or maybe it's a product positioning issue. Maybe you're just not messaging your product the right way. But if you listen to those questions and identify a trend there, you could start to dive into it and get to the core root of the problem. And then you can work backwards from there to solve it.
Yeah, I think it's best practice overall to keep talking to your clients and to figure out what their challenges are and try to help them fix them. And as you mentioned, then you will have people start referring you as well. This is an easy question, probably a tough answer. Can you walk us through some processes or strategic way you would recommend SaaS companies to get like product market fit? Like any processes or things you would recommend here?
Yeah, definitely. First, I would recommend, like I mentioned before, start with a customer. Really get to know your customer well. The ICP, everything from there falls in line afterwards. If you really understand who your customer is and the problem that you're solving for them, you could build a better product to like more efficiently or more effectively solve that problem for them. So always start there. Then start small. Start with an MVP, minimal viable product. So a lot of people, when they're building a product, go out there and they build too many features under maybe the wrong assumptions, and they end up building this monstrosity of a bunch of features that don't really end up actually solving the core problem for the customer. But if you start with an MVP, you can start with very limited feature sets, just really trying to focus in on solving the exact problem for that exact customer and the most effective way possible. That's how you can achieve product market fit without spending a bunch of money on it or going too far in the wrong direction and having too much invested and maybe coming into the sunk cost fallacy. You don't know what to rip out or take out and go back on to reach your pivoting point. So start small from there. Get customer feedback early and often and through the entire life of your company. Always be listening to your customers and getting feedback on how you can improve everything. But especially very early on, build the product with your customers' feedback. Get obsessed with data. Pay attention not only just to the numbers and what the numbers will tell you, but also look at qualitative feedback. Like I mentioned prior, like the questions that keep coming up with customers. They'll tell you a lot behind that story there. And you should definitely tune into that and listen. Even small things, if you're doing an interview with a customer or a demo, changes in their tone of voice, like inflections in their voice could tell you a lot too. Like you introduce a feature and they say, oh, or if you're trying to explain your product too much and their eyes start rolling to the back of their head, you're like, maybe my pitch is bad. So really pay attention to people's feedback, even the stuff that's not in the data and sometimes not even what they verbally say. And like I mentioned too, land and expand. Don't be afraid to start small. Amazon wasn't built in a day. It started with books, like I mentioned, and you could always expand outwards from there and build your online marketplace to sell all types of things and eventually take over the world.
Nice. I will summarize it for people. Like start with the customer, build your ICP, start with an MVP, which solves the core problem, get customer feedback, get obsessed with data, and then land and expand. And I think the core here is that you need to build a product which people actually want to use, right? They want to solve a certain problem. So, of course, it sounds easy, but I think a lot of people as well start a company with the wrong reasons, as in they want to make as much money as possible. But if you actually do it from the approaches and you want to solve a problem, things will follow as well.
Yeah, certainly.
Growing a B2B SaaS is tough. We know. This is why we started Reditus. We help you to grow your monthly recurring revenue without high upfront costs. How? By leveraging someone else's network and only giving away a commission when they deliver you a paid client. It's called affiliate marketing. It's already a really cost-effective and scalable revenue channel. We even made it better for you. With Reditus, you can start for free and only start paying us when you generate revenue. Learn more at www.getreditus.com.
Are there any frameworks or methodologies you would recommend people to check out and use?
Yeah, frameworks, like I mentioned there, I like to keep things simple and keep it relatable to everybody. Some people might have some like fancy stuff they read about in a book or some Harvard review thing, but it really just comes down to we're in the business of helping people and helping people solve their problems. So the way that you do that in the most efficient way possible, truly caring about the customer's problem while keeping your business with as little friction and as simple as possible to really help those people solve that problem. If you think about it, it's really basic stuff. You don't have to reinvent the wheel or overthink it. It just all goes back down to the basics.
Yeah, I fully agree. As in, there's no magic bullet. It's back to the basics, and in the end, it is going to be hard work to get there. But once you get there, it's going to be a nice experience.
Yeah.
Before you get there, you're definitely going to have a lot of challenges. What are some of the common challenges company face? I think you already mentioned one, not knowing when to pivot. Any other challenges you're going to face when trying to achieve product market fit?
Yeah, technology is easy. I always say people are hard. Really love your customer, love the problem that you're solving, not your product and your features so much. Those are just tools to help the customer solve their problem. And if they like what you offer, then you have a business and it's going to grow. So really change your perception to focus on helping people actually. And this is one thing I've learned the hard way myself too, right? Like I had a product where I invented these smart backup cameras. And this thing was like a brick on the back of people's cars. And everybody was like, I don't want like this ugly looking thing on the back of my car. I already have a license plate frame there. And to give you an example, this was me listening to feedback. I kept on hearing license plate frame, license plate frame, license plate frame. I already have something back there. So for me, that gave me the cue, right? Nobody necessarily explicitly told me to design it like a license plate frame, a smart one, but we changed the design form of it. And that's when the product became very, very successful and popular, actually. So when we promoted it as a smart license plate frame to replace your old one, but this one has a cool camera built in that communicates to a mobile app on your smartphone, people loved it. It was in the media, did a lot of TV stuff for it, and very successful. But before, just because of the design form, people just didn't care about it. So like small changes like that, and I won't even call it a full pivot really, but it could have a profound effect. But that comes down to loving the customer and really listening to what their needs are, even if it sounds like a minute detail. Oh, I have to design it a little bit differently. But nonetheless, it's very important. That product positioning is very important too. So sometimes you might have a great product. A lot of times you might even know who your customer is, but you're not telling the right story. So this is something that you could definitely A/B test with advertising a lot of times. So don't be afraid to run ads, see which ones get a higher performance rate there to test your copy and messaging. But product positioning, once you have a good product and you have a really good idea of who your customer is and how you solve their problem, you got to get really good at that storytelling angle there. Some other challenges too for companies is that you don't have a reputation when you're getting started. It's very hard to get traction going. You're the new guy on the block. People haven't heard of your company. So do whatever you can to maybe partner with bigger companies, put some logos on your site. PR can be really effective as well too. Just say Forbes or some company writes about that. Definitely tout that on your website. That gives you more credibility. And just at the very early stage, just winning one customer at a time just really goes a long way too. Just having actual paying customers that love your product, that gives you a base to start to build a reputation on. We also deal with a lot of lack of resources too. So a lot of people realize that they don't have maybe the engineering talent to pull it off. So maybe look for a good technical co-founder if you're more of a marketing guy. And if you're an engineering person, get a good marketer, because a lot of times what you want to build as an engineer, A plus B equals C, doesn't necessarily translate in the real world, because we're dealing with people here, not machines. Find a good co-founder to get started. And if you don't have the resources in terms of funding, there's a lot of engineering firms that you could outsource to build your MVP. For my product, FenSense actually outsourced to an R&D firm and helped manage the project with them to build it. But that allowed me to achieve minimal viable product early on, which I was able to raise money around. But I didn't have to spend too much money to bring this product to market and achieve that product market fit initially. And lastly, you might not have a lot of money to spend on marketing to really get your business out there and grow, but that's where strategies like partner-led growth comes in to be really effective. Identifying partners like yourself, on Nacho and the way that we work together. Win-win collaborations where we do content marketing together. We promote you in our marketplace and vice versa, where we're really just overlapping each other's audiences. It's free. We're just putting in our time and putting in our shared reputations and collaborating with our communities, but it helps both businesses there. So a lot of companies I definitely recommend should do partner-led growth. And if you're building a product, the other PLG word, so product-led growth, to build a product that's viral by nature, that is easy to use, frictionless, and solves that customer problem really well. And then it's got those viral features built into it where it's easy to for people to invite other friends to it naturally. Little viral loop tactics like that can go a long way to scale your product with little to no money, actually.
Yeah, and in the end it will be tough, but once that kicks in, that's going to be really nice. And I think what you mentioned, partner-led growth, like the biggest thing is we're going to tap into each other's network. So we're both growing our own network, but in the end, just by talking to each other and helping each other out, you're going to get exposure to my network. I'm going to get exposure to your network, which is really nice. And that's only one example. If you have 10 people or 20 people or 50 people, that's going to be like a real boost for getting that feedback and getting the first customers in as well.
Absolutely.
And I think the other thing I wanted to mention, like you mentioned with the keeping the cost low or like putting development outsourced, like nowadays you have so many no-code tools, so you can get the MVP up and running quickly. Or what you could do, which something we have done, is to give out equity towards the technical co-founder. So instead of working for salary, work for equity, which is a nice one as well.
That's a great point, actually, because there's a lot of engineers out there and technical partners that might, sure, like these big companies throw a lot of money at them, but a lot of these guys get tired of being in the big corporate world, and eventually they want to venture out and do their own thing, right? So it's hard being in a big company, feeling like you're a cog in the wheel. And I've seen this a lot, right? So you could get really extremely talented people that want to join you on your startup, even if it's part-time to get things going, but they really believe in your product vision and the problem that you're solving. You'd be surprised you can get some good partners on your team fairly effectively, because a lot of these guys, just money can only go so far for motivation, right? A lot of times people want to paint their own masterpiece, if you will. So keep an eye out for people like that are tired and bored of the corporate life.
Yeah, and I think you touch out upon a really good point, like creating your masterpiece. What I noticed, like internally, as in we've built the app, rebuilt the app completely in the last 9 months. And then they basically were able to create the app how they want it, in the code how they want it, and to shape it like as a masterpiece of them, where they're really happy about like the foundation of our app. If you have a senior developer who's working in a big corporation, they're just changing a window or might even just a glass. And in our case, we're building the entire foundation in exactly the way they like it and how they envision it in the future. So I think that could also be a selling point towards a technical co-founder, as in they could actually build their own masterpiece, as you called it.
Yeah, because a lot of people like being able to tell the story that I built this thing. We took this thing from 0 to 1. It's part of your story, right? As opposed to telling people that you meet, oh yeah, I did the edit button on Facebook.com or whatever. Like, I'm the edit button guy.
Yeah.
That's all I do every day. Just make sure the edit button is live. And I've seen roles like that in large companies. I'm like blown away with how limited their role is. And for some people, there's only so long that they can do that for, even if the money's good.
Exactly. You want to have a purpose as well. When we go back to product market fit and go back to Nacho, tell me a little bit, how are you trying to achieve product market fit for Nacho at the moment?
Yeah, so with Nacho, we have a pretty good product market fit, especially on the seller side. We do have a lot of buyer side interest as well too. One thing that we're working on now is on the buyer side, reducing friction and making it easier for people to take advantage of the offers that we have in the marketplace. So that's one of the big initiatives that we're working on now. We're also adding a Maven's marketplace for service providers too. So we did see a lot of demand for, agencies of all types and companies to actually attract the customer base as well too. And there's not a lot of options out there for them. We're pretty excited about the potential growth in that area too. But yeah, for us, it just comes down to fine-tuning the product, just fine-tuning the shopping experience, making it easier for people to not only find the software that they're looking for, or maybe better alternatives to what they have now that might be able to do the same thing more affordably, or might even have better features. So for that, we built in some AI-powered tools that uses your software usage habits and buyer behavior to help you identify software that might be more relevant for you. And just little things to just reduce friction overall, just to make it easier for people to find the right product and get that product onboarded and successfully implemented within their organization.
Yeah. And what you said there is you're trying to get people towards value, even though they don't know yet, I guess, what that value is, because they're already using a product, but you're already recommending them to use something else based on their behavior, which is, I think, really clever.
Yep. Yeah, so a lot of exciting initiatives there, both short-term and long-term, to further develop the product out and provide a better experience ultimately.
Nice. We're going to go to the final 4. When we talk about product market fit, and we're going to cut it up into 2 stages, what kind of advice would you have for SaaS founders who are trying to grow from 0 to 10K monthly recurring revenue?
Mm-hmm. I like this stage a lot because this is where like a lot of the problem solving actually happens. This is where identifying the right customer, really fine tuning your product market fit and building that MVP out become really crucial, because everything after that is, in my opinion, becomes a lot easier. But going from 0 to 10K is probably the hardest point of any business. So, that's why it's really important to go back to the basics, like I mentioned. And this is the stage where you really have to identify product market fit, and you have to get it, because it's going to make everything else you do afterwards so much easier and more effective to scale the business from there on out. So talk to your customers, get that feedback, get very granular, build everything brick by brick, customer by customer, and get right down to the problem and solve it as effectively and simply as you possibly can for the customer.
Yeah, and the better you build the bricks, the easier it is going to get for the next question.
A great foundation you could build a huge building on top of. A shaky foundation falls over.
Exactly. So when we are going to pass that stage, we're now past 10K MRR. What kind of advice would you give a SaaS founder growing towards 10 million ARR?
This is where scale and processes become really important. So if you've actually defined your product market fit, actually one thing, so you might even have 10K in MRR and ARR, but like I mentioned earlier, like that don't assume that revenue means that you have your business model. So step number 1 would be, okay, we have some revenue coming in. Are we ready to actually scale? And can these processes really scale out our business? Or this is the point to where you have to really make that decision to pivot your company. So first, really know that you have product market fit and just make sure that you have that dialed in. So if you have that, then you're ready to scale your business. You've defined hopefully some processes that work for how you treat your customers, how you onboard new customers, maybe the marketing channels that are really working for you. And there's a great book that I read several years ago by the founder of DuckDuckGo, I think. It's called Traction. So basically it identifies 19 different traction channels. There's more now, but where you could actually get your customers. And for every business, it's not going to be the same traction channels each and every time. So sometimes founders walk into it with a bias that they think what worked in their previous company is going to work in this company. So look at everything from a clean slate and don't be afraid to try new marketing channels to experiment and grow. But if you identify processes that really work to scale your business, double down on those. If you found like a particular marketing channel, maybe it's product partner-led growth, really double down on developing more partnerships, because that'll build that foundation that really helps scale your business. So I would say at this stage, you're building a scalable model and defining processes that you could scale with will really help you get to that 10 million ARR. But don't be afraid to try new things, right? Always be experimenting there, because you might discover like a better way of doing things, or maybe a new marketing channel that you might not have thought of before that actually ends up becoming pretty lucrative for your revenue growth.
Yeah, I think this is really solid advice. Get the good foundation in and then start scaling and creating processes to grow, basically. What kind of advice or encouragement would you have to SaaS entrepreneurs out there which are now on their journey to achieve product market fit?
I always like to say, don't be afraid to fail. The people that don't try don't fail and they never learn anything. So there's something different between reading about something in a book and actually applying it in the real world and seeing how it works and getting a feel for it. More importantly, celebrate the small wins. That goes a long way, I think, for a lot of founders. It's really tough to get your product out there initially, especially as an entrepreneur. Don't look at it as a one-time thing. Look at it as a career. So you're not going to be the best football player in high school, but if you keep training at it and you keep working on your throws, you're going to become a much better quarterback and can eventually find more success there. The same thing with entrepreneurship. Don't assume your first product is going to be ultra successful. You're going to fail along the way, but learn from those lessons. It's a great opportunity to do. I really think luck, when they say the overnight success guy, and I've seen a lot of these over the years, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And that preparation is those failures that you go through sometimes, which gives you those life lessons. So the next time around, you don't make those bad decisions anymore. And you just have that gut instinct and feel for how to build the right product and how to go to market. And that'll define your success, where one night you do have those products or those companies that just blow up overnight and everybody says, how did this guy do it? It's the overnight decade or 2 decades that this person put in as an entrepreneur career.
Yeah, exactly. You have to, as you mentioned, fail a lot, and then one time it will hopefully kick off for yourself.
Yep, exactly. It's a marathon.
And I think and celebrate the small wins. I think like it's even one I always, or not always, but often forget because you're so caught up in the next step or the next thing you want to do. And I think also for yourself, but also for the team, celebrate the small wins and make it nice, because it is going to be a career, as you mentioned. So make it an enjoyable one as well.
Yeah, it's very rewarding. You walk into a lot of restaurants and you'll see their first dollar bill from a customer up on the wall to tell that story. I think for your team, like getting your first customer is really important. Getting to maybe your first 100 customers is an important milestone, but definitely encourage that as a cultural thing within your company to celebrate those small wins, because those small wins get you towards that long-term vision and success that you all want to realize. But if you can't appreciate the small steps that you're taking that are right in front of you, waiting for that overnight success or whatever, it's going to be a long way to get there. Celebrate the small wins and appreciate those. And if you define that as a culture for your team too, they're going to be more motivated and encouraged as well too, which is really important because it's not easy in startups, right? And so you have to be able to roll with the punches, but celebrating those wins allows you to do that really easily.
Yeah, I fully agree here. Last question. What is one thing you wish you knew 10 years ago?
Wow, great question. I think always to listen more. As a marketing person and as a product person, I'm a lot better than I was. It's something that you could always refine as a person, like just realize what you're good at and what you're not good at. I wish 10 years ago you could have avoided some of the failures, although actually some of the failures actually I liked because you learn so much from them. But I actually look pretty fondly on some of those. Actually, some pretty great stories came out of that too. But I think just listening to people more, trying to help actually focus on solving the problem for the customer and forgetting about your egocentric focus on your product and loving your product too much and trying to change the entire world to conform to what you've done, as opposed to trying to conform your product into the world and actually helping people solve their problems. And that really just comes down to listening to people and being attuned to all that. I think I'm great at it now, but I could be excellent. We're always working on improving on everything myself, and I definitely recommend everybody else too. We're never perfect, so just keep working on those soft and hard skills that you have.
Yeah, and you're never going to be perfect because you always want to make mistakes. You always want to, because otherwise you're not learning, right? I think that's probably always the best way to learn is to actually make the mistake. So you can listen a lot even to this podcast, and you might then avoid the most common pitfalls we just discussed, for example, regarding product market fit, but you will have to fail yourself as well, because that's the moment you're really going to learn.
Yeah, just get out there and do it. Trial by fire.
Exactly. Andy, if people want to get in contact with you, how would be the best way to do it?
Yeah, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat with anybody, help any founder grow their business. I'm just love working within the SaaS community. So anybody that wants to partner with us, we're very, very partner centric. We look for win-win relationships. Don't be afraid to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn, Andy Karuza. That's Karuza. Happy to chat with anyone.
Yeah, we're definitely going to add the link to your LinkedIn profile. We're also going to add the link towards the Traction book, which you mentioned. And I guess for final closure, I would recommend reaching out to Andy, because he will be able to help you also to grow your SaaS as well. Definitely do so.
Thanks, John.
Thanks Thanks for coming on the show, Andy, and see you soon again.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
You've been listening to Growing a B2B SaaS. Joran has been ahead of customer success before founding his own startup. He's experiencing the same journey you are. We hope you've gotten some actionable advice from the show. And we hope you had fun along the way. We know we did. Make sure to like, rate, and review the podcast in the meantime. To find out more and to hook up with us on our social media sites, go to www.getredditous.com. See you next time on Growing a B2B SaaS.